live or not? Oh, we're live. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our stream with Project Welcome Home Troops on Sky Resilience Stories. Today we have Chris Eaton with us. He's a combat veteran, served in the U.S. Army. And as we go through this episode, we'll just have Chris share some of his who he is when he served, and then as how things unfolded for him as he went into the Sky Resilience training. So we'll dive into Chris into your story and how we got you to this point here, how you got yourself to this point here this evening. So welcome, and really happy to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Leslie.
Yeah.
Now, when you say background, I mean, I'll tell military, but if you want me to tell more, I grew up outside Chicago, and I knew that I wanted to go into the military since I was pretty much 7 years old. Many would say I watched too much John Rambo, but that's beyond the point. I ended up going to Virginia Military Institute. I was convinced that I needed to do college right out of high school, but when I got to college in my sophomore year, one of my senior mentors, Colonel Lee Van Arsdale, said to me, he's like, hey, you can't lead if you haven't been. And so I ended up enlisting. And so for my sophomore, junior, senior year of college, I served in the Virginia National Guard. I did just communications and went to basic training and all that. Then I commissioned as a field artillery officer, went over to lovely Fort Sill, and then over to Germany, and then to Iraq. We were initially going on a field artillery mission, but then we went as mobilized infantry, so we kicked open doors for the first 10 months and then a little bit of field artillery towards the end. Saw and experienced all sorts of things. Apparently I was really good at what I did, so I got off of active duty and I started working as an OGA contractor, doing another 3 years over in the war zones. I continued after active duty doing a part-time, so I worked over at the Armory in DC, a couple other different places, but then I finished at US Stratcom out of Omaha.
Great, amazing. And how many years total did you serve active duty?
4 active, and then another 5 in the reserves guard.
Okay. And tell me, Chris, when you separated from the military, when you came home, what was that transition like for you? What were the challenges you faced?
It was, I mean, trying to find a job and trying to translate, who it was, what I did. I moved to Chicago, which might have been one of my mistakes. But they just didn't see the value in job titles and descriptions and all that. So I really had to work on networking in order to find my first well-paying job. But I ended up working in corporate America. Nothing really wrong with that per se, but I clearly was not a good fit. I was told I had to really clean up and soften how I approach things. I'm pretty direct, but I'm also kind. If you mess something up, I'm just going to say, hey, look, it could have been better. You missed this and this. Can we get that done? But they wanted me to spend 10 minutes talking to you about your family and your car, and then I can, that sandwiching thing. So it was a little, integration was a little bit hard, but I had some good mentors. One of them was Guy, and Kirk helped me transition. Other military vets.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And how about just day-to-day life with relationships and family? Were you finding this part of you was still not yet home all the way, or how was that showing up for you as far as your own sense of well-being, your own sense of who you were?
So this is where it gets interesting. When I grew up, I really wasn't taught that I didn't know anything about life. I was told a whole bunch of how to do things, how to get a job, how to make money, how to be a Christian, how to do this, and how to set goals. And so it was just do. I didn't really get a moment to where I really felt connected, and I definitely didn't know how to process emotions. So I did what anyone else did: is we just put it in a bottle and we grinded through one step in front of the other. Sometimes it was really hard. You didn't really want to take the step, but you knew you had to. And so that's the grind. And that served me well while I was in the military. You just take orders, you follow them. Sometimes you want to, other times you, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Um, and so that served me well up until the point where it just got too much. And when there's too much in the closet, or whatever type of language we want to use to describe the immense amount of piles of undealt with things that we sometimes avoid, um, that's where it got hard. And not that the military promotes it, but we'll just say like social life and the way that we deal with much of it is we'll go out and we work out, we drink, and sometimes we do adrenaline rush type activities. So I continued that trend. Um, and it eventually caught up with me. Um, what one bottle does at the beginning doesn't do the same, so then you keep drinking a little bit more, and eventually I was looking at a half a 750 a night in order to kind of kill the thoughts that were persistent at the end of the night. Um, and then I also was addicted to caffeine, so I had to wake up and I had to have an upper, and then in order to go to bed, I had to have a downer. And then when that downer, medicine plus melatonin plus alcohol plus whatever the doctor prescribed me, I was on at one point anxiety pills, depression pills, melatonin, alcohol. Oh, and I have 3 fractures in my back. Why not? So
Mm,
now
yeah,
you got to work on the inflammation. All that together doesn't go so well.
yeah,
So that's how I coped up until 2018, and then I tried taking my life. I said this sucks. If I got to rely on a figure out what pills I can or can't take and all this, I just didn't like it. And so that's when my whole journey began. Was in 2018. I realized that I never wanted. There was 3 questions that I asked over the coming weeks that formed, and it was, uh, how did I get here? How do I never go back? And then how do I help others do the same? And that's why I'm here today.
yeah, beautiful. And that was shortly after your suicide attempt, right? That
Yeah.
those questions emerged for you and kind of shaped the path you're on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing.
Yeah. So
You're very fortunate to have those thoughts come to your mind. That's not the case with everyone, right? You know that very well. So
yeah.
that spark was alive in you to say, "Wait, this isn't the way." Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in many ways you think it is because you're just going through the grind, and on the outside, like everything was going great for me. I had a amazing wife and 2 beautiful kids, and I was making really good money, success. I was an entrepreneur at that point, so I had a couple other side gigs that were going. So from the outside, everyone was like, "Wow, look at Chris, he's awesome." And all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh,
Right.
okay." Uh, so I started the change, and so that change, without going on a long tangent, I spent the next 5 years going through everything that the VA had to offer. I met all sorts of amazing people on the way, and a lot of it I was very resistant to. So I first went because I didn't want to lose my clearance, and I didn't want to be that guy, the wuss that went and had to go get help. So I told the VA at first, I was like, I need some marital counseling because that sounds safe and no one could pull my clearance for marital counseling. And then I started talking about my kids, and then eventually I started talking about me, um, and we kind of worked on things throughout there. But then they started, they still kind of handed me the pills, and they're like, "Well, don't do that. You want to do this." And so we kind of fine tuned. But the same answer was you're gonna have to take this pill, or you're gonna have talk therapy for the rest of your life. And I said, no, no, no. I'm not taking that answer. I think that there's something more, something deeper that we can really heal. So it wasn't until 2023 where I had pretty much maxed out everything that the VA had to offer. I saw over 24 therapists, if I remember right. Um, and so after all of that, sleep studies, because we were working on all the pain within my body. So I had the problems with the body, I had problems with nutrition. I had drank so much alcohol that I was having reflux. I couldn't keep food down. I couldn't process it right. So all of these disturbances within the physical body, my mind was spinning out of control. So I couldn't drink alcohol, but yet what am I supposed to do with the thoughts?
Mhm.
Um, and then the felt sensations. And I needed a way to be able to get out of that. And then in 2023, I ran into a series of spiritual people, including 8 elders of the Tibetan monks. And for a moment in time, I just paused and I just kept asking myself, like, how is it that they are so peaceful? They own a satchel, they almost own nothing, and they
Mhm.
rely on humanity to give them place to sleep, food to eat, and yet they're so calm. So I had the pleasure of being able to sit with them for about 7 days straight with an interpreter, and just I fell in love with how they just lived their life.
Mhm.
Turns out that a lot of that was silence, stillness, breath work, nutrition, community, um, and having a daily practice.
Mhm.
Um, that was one thing, and I'll definitely take that as a failure point. Is I did not redefine a practice post military. When I was on active duty, it was easy. You didn't have a choice. Wake up 6 a.m. here, 7 a.m. there, blah blah all day. You didn't really have too much where you had to make a choice. I didn't even have to make a choice on what I was going to wear for clothing. You just followed the day. Um, so in 2023, 2024, 2024 was when I was introduced by, I actually met Fleet Mall, who I believe he goes by the Prison Buddha, and he started talking about consciousness because I was curious on the monks and there. So I started going into transcendental meditation, like what is this meditation thing,
Mhm.
only for it to circle back through a meeting with Fleet Mull that I met Mandar, who then introduced me to Sky Breath in early 2024. And I thought that I knew breathwork until I started sitting down doing Sky, and I was like, my hands are tingling. I can't even hold on to a thought when I'm doing the meditation and I'm putting the effort into it. And I was like, wow, a lot of other meditations, one of the common things people are like, they're like, oh, I can't concentrate. I can't do meditation. I can't stop the thoughts. There's no way I'm going to do meditation. It's just not for me. And I was like, well, that's what I thought. But you have to find the right type of meditation. You kind of have to tweak it a little bit for you to see where your tolerance are. And it's just like learning how to ride a bike. No one jumps on a bike and just knows how to ride it. Well, maybe some people.
Right.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
So what was your we've heard your experience of where you were before. So you've painted a beautiful or unfortunate picture of where you were before and your attempts to manage your mind, manage what was happening, the memories, everything that was coming up. So after Sky Breath, after the Project Welcome Home Troops, the Sky Resilience training, what did you observe? What changed? What was different? And I know your wife also experienced the workshop with you, which we also welcome spouses to join the Project Welcome Home Troops Sky Resilience Training.
Um, My whole life changed at the end of 2023, 2024, because while breath was being introduced to me, at the same time, it was answering the ultimate question: who am I? Why am I here? And initially, I thought I was all of the things that I had done and things I had acquired, but that means that I am both good for all of my amazing accomplishments, and I'm also bad because I've made some really poor choices in my life, including I'm twice divorced and I've failed businesses and all of it. And so when you're sitting in your mind and you think, oh, I am these mistakes and I'm going to do it again and I'm going to, this is just my lot in life. It's not.
Yeah.
And I can tell you now, um, I'm not my thoughts. They arise, and some of them aren't even. It's kind of harder to explain, but they're not always mine. Sometimes I'll be thinking an old movie will pop up, or old something that I witnessed will show. But am I in that in this moment? No, I'm not. But I will tell you, back in 2018, I was.
Mhm.
So when I got when something I had previously experienced, the symptoms of, oh, I'm at a restaurant, waitress drops the dishes, I'm flipping the table, standing up, reaching for the gun that I don't normally have, and I'm like, what's going on? Because I was going off of old data, not allowing me to be into the present moment. And so, breath work, meditation, even if it's for 2 minutes in the morning or 5 minutes here and there throughout the day, it gives me a moment to come back in and check in and say, you know what? I am safe. I am blessed. I'm still alive. Other people are not.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot more balanced, and in many different languages, they'll call it the observer, the witness, um, third person, disassociation, whatever it is. It allows me to observe everything that's happening and say, okay, Chris is sending signals of sadness or anger. Why? Oh, okay. Well, here's my current environment and situation. Are these thoughts true?
Mhm. Mhm.
I might have disappeared. I'm not sure. There we go.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're here. So it's greater awareness, right? So the breath gives you there's a can be a shift in perception, how you perceive yourself in the world, your understanding of things. And as you said, the extent of that ability to step back and watch the watch how your own mind is working, why emotions are rising, feelings are rising, thoughts are rising, and that they're really not, who we are at our core. They're just cloud. I think of them as clouds passing through the sky that we don't need to attach to necessarily, right? And it's an exercise, it's a journey. This is not like you do one session of breathing and suddenly you're Yoda, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, but Chris, how we have a lot of veterans coming to us who I have some coming, especially from one of our VA providers who she'll talk to a vet for 4 or 5 years, and they finally kind of give in and like, okay, just to get you off my back, they're psychologists. They'll come and take the course, and they're like, oh man, I wish I'd done this 5 years ago. Why didn't I listen to her? What can you say to your fellow veterans who are like, this is either hippie nonsense or sitting on the fence, or, what would you say to
Mm.
get them off the fence?
When we were in the military, we were taught to practice, practice, practice. You don't just pick up the tool that you're going to use, whether it's the Humvee and just start driving it, or the weapon system and just start using it. You have the walk or crawl, walk, run phases through all of it, and then it's through repetition before it forms the habit, which then becomes a part of you. And the reason that we do that is because when you're in the worst case scenario, combat, someone's trying to kill you, you need to have the ability to be able to understand that system back and forth. So if you need to troubleshoot it, I know I am so familiar with whatever that tool is. I could do it blindfolded. We used to train blindfolded on different things, but
Right.
yet we weren't taught, what do you do with it? What do you do in the moment to troubleshoot and to pull yourself out? We call it the red veil. When the red veil comes over and you're no longer able to think, and you start feeling the anxieties inside of you, and you can't find the right answer, we start getting angry,
Mhm.
trying to find the answer, frustrated. Um, Breath will bring that back in.
Yeah.
I will be able to lower whatever that felt anxiety is, whether it's in the throat, in the chest, in the body, and I will be able to give myself just a couple extra split seconds to say, ah, okay, pull back, and then I go and I address it again. So I don't just have one tool. The military, we had PACE. You had your primary, your alternate, your contingency, and your emergency plan. You had 4 plans, so if one failed, you knew how to do the other, and you trained on all four. But yet, why aren't we training for when we have an emotional angst moment or for something like that? So I say, learn from as many people as you can. Ask them what the tools are that they use when the oh crap moments happen. How do you exit that so you don't lose the ability to be grounded and think and make the right decision in the moment?
Mhm. Beautiful. Yeah, and with the breath, it has that cumulative effect. So when those moments arise, and they will, life is life, right? Those challenges are going to be, no matter how chill you are, those moments will arise. And with that consistent practice, I've found for myself personally is that those moments don't carry the same clout that they used to. Things that used to really throw me off my center or make me angry. I'm a was a former rageaholic, and so these are tools that I understand that with the regular practice too, that those challenging moments become less challenging. You're able to the anger comes, it's a normal, natural emotion, but it doesn't fester, and I'm not planning someone's demise because they made me angry, right? So that's the beauty of this breath work, is it gives us the pause, gives us some say over our mind. It gives us that clarity and ability to see more clearly beyond the red veil, as you said, beyond those emotions that might consume us. Yeah. And Chris, you're heading this summer for teacher training to become a Sky Resilience teacher. Tell me a little bit about that and what's motivated you to do that.
So that's that third part of the question. Post suicide was, how do I not experience this? How do I not go back? So the second part of the question was structuring myself. So I'm just going to pause for a second to go back. Is that sometimes, even though you're going to have these tools to be able to help you in the moment of anxieties, to pull you back out and get you grounded, so you feel you feel much more grounded, strong. Um, you still have work to do, because there was something that underlies that, and that's what you were just talking about, is the broken record that says you're going to fail, you can't do this, or whatever it is that is telling you the old belief. That doesn't necessarily go away, but you observe it. And so every day I wake up and I say, I'm going to choose this version of Chris, because this is the healthier one. This is the one that isn't yelling at a 5-year-old. I've got a few kids, so why am I yelling at a 5-year-old? That just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you'll hear the old record, and eventually the new record becomes louder than the old, and the old one fades. But if you get hungry, if you are super tired, if you are super stressed out, the chances of the old record starting to play a little bit louder, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to just stay observant. Now, the third part of the question is after I felt really grounded, how do I help others do the same? I've had 32 friends that took their life since 2010, and that's way too much for one person. But just in general, I don't understand this 20, 28, however many a day veterans that are losing their life. Um, so I'm on the same mantra as many other people, is not one more. There shouldn't be suicide. At minimum, I am going around and I talk to people daily about this, is you can have tools in your pocket. Find your type of breath. It's not about yoga. It's not about a particular style of breath or that you did it perfectly. It's that you paused and you realize that you're a sacred human being. Give yourself some grace, but have the tools,
Mm-hmm.
because this world is special. And sometimes the things that unfold in front of us, whether it's a jerk driver or a jerk boss, or maybe it's not a jerk, maybe your parent died. Uh, One of my clients, their 3-year-old has a brain tumor. How do you handle that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here, and I'm going in July to the TTC to become a trainer, because I really do believe in the sky breath. I've tried many different breaths out there, not comparing any of them or saying any of them are better, but the one that definitely works for me is the sky breath. I've tried Wim Hof, the 4 box breathing. I've tried Kundalini, many variations. But this is one that really resonates with me. So I hope to be out right outside MacDill Air Force Base.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. Look forward to having you on our teaching team. And Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us today. It's very powerful, and it will reach many, many ears that need to hear it. So thank you so much, and I'll be seeing you
thank
soon.
you.
Take care.
Bye, Liz.
Bye.